We'll start with the Wisconsin State Senate. First, Andrew Mckinney. All right, thank you very much, Andrew. And Melissa Sargent. There she is. All right, so Wisconsin State Assembly. That seat, we'll start with Samba Baldeh. There he is. Lindsay Lemmer. Walter Stewart. And Jason Vangalis. There he is. All right, excellent. So just a few quick words about the format, and then we'll get started. We're going to begin with the Senate candidates' questions, and then we'll proceed from there over to the Assembly. The candidates are each going to have 2 minutes at the outset to make opening statements, and then the questions will begin. We'll ask each question of each candidate, so each one will get to answer. The order of answering was determined by a random drawing. We did one drawing for the statements and then another drawing for the questions. Each candidate will receive 90 seconds to answer each question. Arden, I'll ask you to wave. Arden's the timekeeper. She will provide a verbal 20-second warning before the end of your time so that you can plan that out appropriately. Following the, one more note. I'm actually going to be helped in the questioning by 2 co-hosts. If Samantha, you could wave, and Fareed. They're also on the Eastside Progressives team, and they'll be helping with that as well. Following the questions, each candidate will receive an additional 2 minutes to have a closing statement. With all of that said, it's our goal to wrap this up by right around 4:30 so we can get along with our days. The questions were formulated based on feedback from the community. We did do some outreach for that, as well as current events. If you have questions for the candidates, unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do a back and forth technically, but if you put something into the chat, we will be sharing the chat output with all of the candidates. So if you have any specific questions, you can put them there and there will be an option for that. With all that said, we'll begin with the candidates for State Senate District 16. This is the seat that's currently held by Mark Miller, and he is not running for re-election. I'll invite first, based on random drawing, Andrew Mckinney to make his opening statement. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Mckinney, and thank you all for having me on this Sunday afternoon to speak to the public on why I want to run. First off, I am a disabled veteran, served my country for 6.5 years during the Gulf War. For the past 25 years, I went from a homeless veteran to where I'm not now with my lovely wife and my kids, and they have been huge supporters. The reason why I'm running is because I know that there needs to be a lot of change here. We have both parties, Republican, Democrat, going too far left, too far right, and are not working for the people who elect us in office. Again, people need to understand that we work for the people who vote us in. It's a public service. Just like I serve my country, like I have been serving my community, and I'm currently serving as president of Monona Grove School Board. These things that we need to understand, that it is a privilege to work for our community. And to all of the candidates out here running for their seats, it's a wonderful thing to see people that really take pride in just not Madison or District 16, but Wisconsin in the whole. I've served my country well. I've served my community. I serve my school district, and I believe it's time for me to serve the state of Wisconsin to get back to where we need to be as leaders in all of our 50 states. Thank you.
22nd.
Thank you very much. So next we'll have Melissa Sargent's opening statement.
All right. I want to thank the Eastside Progressives for hosting today's candidate forum. I am State Representative Melissa Sargent. And over the past 7 years, it's been my honor to represent and serve the amazing people of the 48th Assembly District and to work for policies that better our whole state. And now as a candidate for the 16th Senate District, I am confident that my experience, compassion, relationships, and proven leadership will serve our community, and we will be able to continue to move forward together. As a state representative, former Dane County Board Supervisor, PTO President, small business owner, and mom, I've worked on policies to improve the lives of all Wisconsinites at all levels. And I'm running to be your next state senator because I want to make sure that our state is a place where our economy works for everyone and future generations want to live here. They want to be safe, and they want to be able to raise their families without fear and without sacrificing their health and their well-being. I am proud to continue to be a champion for progressive policies that I have brought forward in the Assembly into the Senate and to lift up the people of our state. I have been proud to lead on policies such as affordable housing, raising the minimum wage, securing accessible and quality healthcare for everyone, addressing disparities and inequalities, addressing the public health crisis caused by gun violence, and supporting local businesses, entrepreneurs, as well as legalizing cannabis. I have a proven track record of working with and for the people of our state, and I will continue that when elected to be your next state senator. As a lifetime resident of Dane County, longtime public servant, and proud, unapologetic progressive Democrat and single mom of 4 amazing boys, I have been and always will be committed to bringing Wisconsinites together and finding innovative and long-term solutions. I understand the issues and the shared values that matter most to people of our state, and I know that my experience and passion will continue to bring a positive impact for Wisconsin. I will work tirelessly for you. I will be planting seeds for tomorrow, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and work with you, and would be honored to earn your vote on August 11th.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the questions for the Senate candidates. I'll pass it off to Samantha, who will ask the first one.
Thanks, Jacob. The first question is, there are almost 500,000 people in Wisconsin seeking unemployment due to the economic fallout from the pandemic. What steps as a legislator would you take to generate more jobs in Wisconsin? Andrew will answer this one first, and then Melissa based on the random drawing, and for the future questions, they'll alternate back and forth.
That's a very good question. We need to understand one thing. No one was prepared for anything like this. So this has really impacted not just families, but the economy as well. We know that we have a strict budget. I haven't looked at the budget of the state, but we know that there is a state budget. So how do we do these things? Well, we have to start learning how to work together across both party lines to figure these things out in order to work for the Wisconsinites. If we cannot come up with any kind of solutions and still fighting amongst each other, nothing's going to get done. That is one of the biggest problems that we're having right now in our state assembly and also in our state senate seats. No one is coming together to work on just the common issues. So what would I do? Well, first of all, I have to earn the respect of 32 other senators, also the 99 assembly folks that are out there right now. We have to come together to work on these issues that COVID-19 has really destroyed the economy here. How to boost up and create new positions out there. This is a very good learning tool. A lot of positives can come out of this, and I am willing to work hard to get some results done for Wisconsinites.
Thank you. Melissa?
Well, that's a very good question. These are certainly unprecedented and uncertain times for everyone. And whether we're worried about a vulnerable family member's health or our own financial security, or how it is that we lift up Wisconsin and move Wisconsin forward, we need to realize that every single one of us in the state of Wisconsin is experiencing something that has not been experienced in our lifetime before. We are lacking leadership at the national level, and we continue to have hurdles thrown in front of us by my Republican colleagues in the legislature, defiantly refusing to bring us in to address this public health epidemic that the pandemic of COVID is bringing to us. It's affecting our unemployment. the ability for workers to be able to have access to their unemployment benefits. They're rightly earned and should be paid unemployment benefits. And we also need to figure out how it is that we are supporting our schools and supporting our small business owners and our main streets at the same time. At the end of the day, we need to be pragmatic about what it is that we do here. Wisconsin has a $6 million rainy day fund that's been put aside, and frankly, it is there for emergency purposes. The Republicans are refusing to bring us in, though we have been introducing legislation and have policies on the table that should be considered. And unfortunately, we are not able to make action there because of gerrymandering in the state of Wisconsin. We need to be putting the people of our community first in order to be able to move forward.
Thank you very much. Fareed, go ahead, sorry.
That's all right. On to our next question. The Air Force selected Truax Field to host a squadron of F-35 fighter jets. Do you think the training of fighter jet pilots is a suitable mission for the 115th Fighter Wing at Truax Field? Or should our Wisconsin National Guard evaluate a new mission that may be more compatible, safer, and better for the community? We'll start with Melissa and then followed by Andrew.
Thank you for this very important question. It is true that the Air Force recently selected a partisan appointee by President Trump chose Truax Field to be the next base for the F-35s. They are set to arrive in 2023, and this decision came despite a lot of uprising and questions and concerns by myself and many people within the district. Absolutely, I think that we should always be looking at what missions can fit within our communities. Unfortunately, I'm also a pragmatist, and I realize that we are very unlikely to be able to impact what mission comes here because we're not able to impact the fact that the F-35s were coming to Wisconsin. I was one of 9 people in the whole state legislature that did not vote in support of the F-35s coming here unequivocally. I know that we need to be spending our time and energy to make sure that our water is clean, that we're addressing our PFAS contaminations, as well as our air and sound. And I have been committed to working with and have a track record of working with my colleagues at the local level, at the state level, as well as the national level to see what it is that we can do, what waivers we can apply for, and how it is that we can impact positively our environment so that we are all able to be healthy as possible. It's unfortunate these policies do have a strong impact on people who have less income and have communities of color. And we need to make sure that those people also have a seat at the table as we are making these decisions and as we continue to move forward. And I have a strong track record of bringing people to the table and making sure that we do address these things.
And I believe that's time for that answer. Thank you, Melissa. Andrew, your answer.
As a veteran, I am always going to be behind the military. However, there can be compromise in doing training missions. The word compromise I use here is what is not happening at our state senate and our assembly level. People did not get their voices heard. I have never had my voice heard. I have come from Gary, Indiana, a polluted area of air, water, crime infested, everything, low income. I grew up in a single family home. So these places of low income was placed for a reason. So we could not have a voice. So now here we have two, the Congressman Ron Johnson and Tammy Baldwin, who agreed to have this placed here with not listening to anyone in the area. And these are people who have contacted me personally to say that their voices was not heard. So I'm not understanding why people did not get their voices.
20 seconds.
I'm really tired of that. And this is why I'm fighting for the small people like myself who've never had their voices heard. This is ridiculous. There should have been compromise. There should have been negotiations to work on these issues, especially for low income, impoverished neighborhoods, and minorities who grew up in this kind of stuff like myself. This is why I'm also running. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Samantha has our next question.
Thanks, Fareed. The next question is, although there are many possible solutions that we have neglected to implement since Rodney King, what is one concrete step Wisconsin can take and that you would take the lead on to make life safer personally and economically for people of color? Andrew?
That's a great question. And being a Black man, I have lived with this all my life. COVID-19 has woken up many white people to see what is going on in the world of Black men getting killed by white police officers. But there's other things that goes under this as well. And to be woke up shocks me that this has been going on. And I am really, really uptight about that. Wisconsin is now ranked #1 in racial disparities. How did that happen? My mother, single parent of 3, moved us here. In my junior and senior year of high school, I had to leave my friends so we can have a better life. Madison was #1, ranked #1 as the greatest place to live in the United States. How did this happen? It's policies that have been created these few years that has destroyed the minority community, low income, and people of color. I would work tirelessly
20
to get some
seconds.
stuff changed because I am one of those victims that live with this every day. So this is nothing new to me. This is why I serve my country. This is why I serve my community, my school district, and this is why I want to serve you. This is my opportunity to do that, and I would love that vote to get in to do that.
Thank you, Andrew. Melissa?
Thank you very much for this very important question. Wisconsin is, in fact, the worst state when it comes to racial disparities, and that has been the case for far too long. In fact, many decades. For too long, families have been raising their children and explaining to them when they are touched by the police, when they are affected by the criminal justice system, this is what they need to do. And I experienced watching that happen firsthand in my own family as a young girl. Our criminal justice system is broken. Wisconsin absolutely needs to do better, and we cannot continue to ignore this. I have been standing and demanding action on this since the day I was elected to the county board and for every day that I've been in the state legislature because it is part of my moral creed. It was something that was important to me and one of the reasons why I did originally run for office 10 years ago. This isn't just about talking. This is about walking the walk. And let me be really clear. I've been standing by and with my colleagues in my community who has been most impacted by our broken system here in the state of Wisconsin. It's not because we don't have great ideas and policies on the table that have been provided by my colleagues at the local level within the city of Madison, within the county board, and within the state legislature. Whether it's talking about restorative courts, how it is that we divert people from our jails and prisons, how we end mass incarceration and prison gerrymandering. We need to end cash bail. We need to end the senseless prohibition of marijuana in our community that has a disproportionate impact on people of color. And we need to have a positive impact on police reforms as well. Deadly force, chokeholds, no-knock warrants, etc.
That's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question. There are about 22,000 people in our Wisconsin prison system. That number is 25% more than the capacity of our prisons. What steps would you advocate to address this issue? We'll start with Melissa, then Andrew.
I can't see the person with the cards because there's multiple screens, but I'm happy to pick up where I left off because these two questions are very closely tied to one another. There are a number of policies that have been brought forward at the local level that we as a state need to empower our local levels of government to be able to take action on, as well as policies that we have written at the state level to address our criminal justice reforms that are needed here in the state of Wisconsin. Again, holding our police departments accountable and figuring out how it is that we can move money away from incarceration and putting people on the line and actually providing supports within our communities for our families and children. Criminal justice reform isn't just about addressing imprisonment rates. It's about taking essential steps to address the racial disparities in our community. Part of this means providing housing, increasing wages, but it also means that we need to do things like banning the box on job applications. It means we need to legalize cannabis in the state of Wisconsin. It means that we need to make sure that we're addressing racial disparities in our schools and our daycare centers as well. All of these pieces fit together. It's a jigsaw puzzle. And we need to make sure that we are lifting up and providing opportunities for everyone to have a voice at the table as we solve these problems.
Thank you, Melissa. Andrew, same question.
That's a great question. And obviously everyone knows the answer, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there for you. As a Black man, the arrest rate is very high. And the darker skin you are, the more time you get. That's the reality. It starts in the police of arresting Black men. Doing the same crimes as the counterpart white people do, they get the most time in prison. This is unacceptable. When do we fix the jurisdiction system to fix this? I know that there are policies out there, but it doesn't work for minorities and especially Black men. This is horrible. And as a state senator, I'm going to look into this more to get this corrected. Defunding the police, I don't accept that. I accept reallocating funds to help out in these low-income communities to build a bridge between the police and the community it serves. It's very simple.
20.
These are the things, thank you. These are the things, there's just a couple of things that I can work on to get these policies, to get these programs going in order to serve minority, low-income areas. That's what I like to do.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Samantha has our next question.
Thank you. I'm just going to interrupt real fast, and then you can proceed, Samantha. Sorry. Melissa did give us the feedback that it's hard to see our timekeeper on this with so many other participants. So I just wanted to let the participants know that when Arden gives the 20-second warning and the time, I'm going to put that in the chat from here on out so that you can watch that. I apologize for the interruption. Go ahead, Samantha.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Jacob. The next question is, our state highway system is in desperate need of increased revenue. How can the state generate additional revenue? Andrew?
There's many forms. One thing I know that people do not like to hear, raising taxes. That is like one of the cardinal sins here. However, I'm looking at our 5.5 sales tax that we have here in the state that hasn't been changed in many, many years. That could be one thing, to change that, maybe adding 0.5% to get more revenue. Also, I believe that just looking at what we have in our budget, to learn how to reallocate funds to certain areas to get things moving and get the economy jumping would be another thing. Legalizing cannabis would be a huge asset to the Wisconsin. As long as it is being used, the funds are used correctly, we could fund our educational systems, we could fund our communities, our low-income areas, and we could move on and being great and better than we are now and stop having this #1 in racial disparities.
20.
And we need to work on these issues. So there's a couple of things I would like to do.
Thank you, Andrew. Melissa, same question.
All right, this is a really important question. Our budgets are about priorities, and certainly the infrastructure in the state of Wisconsin, when I was growing up, was one of the best in the nation. And now, as much as we hope that when our children are growing up behind us, that they are coming into a better world, we're seeing my kids and many other kids growing up in a state that we actually have some of the worst infrastructure in the nation. And whether we're talking about our roads and bridges, or we're talking about lead pipelines going into people's homes and to businesses, we absolutely need to be doing better in order to address this. There are a number of ways that we can do that. One of them is making sure that the businesses and the heavy trucks that are using our roads are actually paying their fair share. They are doing more damage to the roads than normal people. We actually additionally need to be thinking about how it is that we index our gas tax here in the state of Wisconsin. It's not a one size fits all answer, but looking at what our gas tax is and how it is that it is paid and how we can do this equitably is also very important. Too many communities, including right here in Dane County, as well as within the city of Madison, have had to go towards meal, and that's very challenging because that's a regressive tax, and we need to make sure that we're addressing that. We also need to look at multimodal transportation options. Unfortunately, we send an awful lot of money back to the federal government that we could have been investing into rail. Here in Wisconsin, we're innovative, and we need to make sure that we are having everyone pay their fair share for our roads and not kicking the can down.
Thank you. Fareed has the next question.
Thank you. The next question is, the searing gap in minority academic performance in Wisconsin schools has become a crisis for our state. What legislation can state government enact to reduce this gap? Melissa, you're first.
Well, absolutely. The first thing that we need to do when it comes to funding of our schools is make sure that we have a fair funding formula. Right now, our education funding is regressive. And while we saw great improvements with Governor Evers in the 1921 budget, we have a long way to go. And we're going to see it falling backwards, unfortunately, due to COVID. We hear our president at the national level talking about the fact that our kids belong in school and the fact that if kids are being homeschooled because of this public health epidemic, that they're not there. That's a falsehood. Our schools do have a lot of additional expenses that they're going to have to be taking into consideration, whether it's broadband access, et cetera. In order to address our racial disparities and achievement gaps within our schools, we need to make sure that we are expanding our education down to even prenatal supports for moms and kids before they're born. And we're providing adequate and affordable quality early child care as well. Our funding for per pupil, it depends on which side of the street you live in, which school district that your child goes to, and how it is that is addressed. And you're penalized when you actually have kids that need more services. Our classes are too large. Our teachers are doing more without the support to them than they have historically. And we absolutely know that we need to fund our schools. We need to treat our teachers as the professionals that they are. And we need to stop demonizing public education at all levels.
All right, Andrew, same question.
That's a very good question, and I have other different points of view. First, we're going to have to start at the higher education level because COVID-19 has woken up us, and we can see some silver linings in teaching in the public eye. Teachers need to get retrained on how to learn, teach virtually. That could actually help us decrease the number of students per classroom for students that are high excelling learning. Number two, our public funds are getting destroyed by this voucher system. We need to invest more in our public schools. Since Act 10, we've lost a lot of great teachers and we've lost a lot of great staff. That has to change as well. We need to give the teachers their right. Act 10 should be destroyed. Number three, we need to get more social workers and psychologists in these schools, also SEAs. In this pandemic, there are students that cannot work they can't work from home. They need that one-on-one. So we need to be able to give them that one-on-one so then they can be successful as well. And just like Melissa said, we need to get more access to broadband. We need to get these hot spots going so these kids can learn at a higher level.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Samantha has the next question.
Thank you. The next question is, what do you see as your legislative priorities for Wisconsin? And how do you envision their impact a decade from now? Andrew?
The first thing is, again, we're ranked #1 in racial disparities. The first thing we need to do is a 7-letter word, is respect. Democrats and Republicans right now are not respecting each other. That's why things don't get done. We need to learn how to respect each other. We need to come together to work on issues and legislation that works for everyone. This is a no-brainer. I don't know why it has to be like that. It feels like living here as a black-white issue. Now it's a Democrat-Republican issue. We're supposed to work together. We get voted in to work for the people. And it is an honor and it's a privilege to do this. And I need to get the respect of the other 22 senators and the 99 Assembly to work together. So the first thing is the racial disparities. That is a domino effect to work and to handle everything else.
20.
We got to respect each other first, work together, and watch how the system works together for everyone.
Thank you, Andrew. Melissa?
Well, I have a proven track record of putting forward policies that have been asked for by the people of Wisconsin. Policies that are life-saving policies, frankly, that are only partisan in the Capitol building. Regardless of if people are voting for Republicans or for Democrats, if they live in urban or rural, people are asking for us to address our housing crisis. People are asking us to increase wages, and I am proud to have been the lead sponsor on policies in both of those areas. Policies that will affect our mental health crisis in the state of Wisconsin, our addiction crisis in the state of Wisconsin, expanding health care to every person in the state of Wisconsin. These are fundamental human rights, and they are my moral compass and how it is that I move forward and bring in the voices of the people into the Capitol building and make sure that they do have a seat at the table as we are addressing policy. Additionally, legalizing cannabis in the state of Wisconsin has been something that I have been talking about since virtually day one. I am proud to be the lead author on a bill that would legalize cannabis in Wisconsin for medicinal as well as recreational purposes. I know that this isn't the answer to everything, but it will address racial disparities.
20.
It will bring revenue into our state so that we can address many of the problems that we have. It will provide jobs so we don't have 2 farms a day leaving our state. At the end of the day, we need to be listening to the people of the state of Wisconsin and bringing forward the policies that they are asking for. And none of these policies are partisan anywhere other than in the Capitol.
Thank you, Melissa. Bree has the next question.
And this is our final question for the Senate candidates. If public school aid is reduced, what would you do about aid for voucher and independent charter schools? We'll start with Melissa.
Well, this is a really easy question for me. Voucher schools and charter schools are robbing our public schools every single day. And we need to make sure that we are adequately funding our public education. The introduction of the voucher and charter school system is a failed experiment, and it's been going on for far too long. It's creating a huge divide within our state of Wisconsin. And our public education, the promise of a public education to all of the children in our state is, to me, one of the most important things that we as a community need to be providing. And it shouldn't matter what zip code that you live in, what color skin you have, who your parents love, or the status of your community. Every child should be able to walk into school and have everything that they need taken care of through our public school system. I would like to see our public school system extended down into our preschools and daycares and early child care facilities. Additionally, we need to make sure that we are adequately funding our higher education system and stop having our UW system and our tech school system taking it on the chin, because all of this is part of the Wisconsin and how it is that we as a state continue to move ourselves forward. We have an egregious thing happening, brain drain. Our young people are leaving our state at an astronomical rate. And that's because they see what it is that other communities are doing to invest in kids and their future. They don't want to have their kids being raised here in the state of Wisconsin because our schools aren't getting what they need because they're being robbed by our voucher and charter school system.
Thank you, Melissa. That is time. Andrew.
Like Melissa said, I agree with her 100%, but to the addition of that, when it comes to being in a low-income minority, especially of Black men, kids do not understand the value of a free education. If they understood the history, which has been taken out of schools, especially with Black history and also minority history, they would understand why it's important to have a public school and free education. From the days of segregation to then integration. Kids do not understand that now because they lost their history. They knew the history, they know how important it is. We need to keep our public schools healthy and strong. We need to quit this pipeline to prison for especially Black men and other people of color in these schools. They are failing, but I know that with the right people, the love and support of these teachers that are out here every day trying to learn about diversity and equity, I take my hat off to all of these folks because I am one of them working in these school districts. I want to make sure that public schools are funded well, no vouchers, no charters. We can do it in the public school system. We need to get the right people and we need to bring in other programs to help out in this situation.
Thank you, Andrew. Jacob?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Fareed and Samantha, for the questions. I would like now to invite each candidate to provide a 2-minute closing statement. We'll go in reverse order from the opening statement. So we'll start with Melissa.
Well, I want to thank you all for tuning in and for Andrew as well as the Eastside Progressives for hosting this event. Over the past 7 years, it's been my honor to represent and to serve the amazing people of the 48th District and to work tirelessly for policy change that will better the state of Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin deeply, and I am so proud to call it home. And I want my kids to continue to call it home, and that's why I'm running to be your next state senator. I am confident that my experience, my compassion, my track record, my proven leadership, and more will serve our community well as we continue to move forward together. I am proud to be a strong, unapologetic progressive Democrat, and as a single mom of 4 amazing boys, I've always been committed to moving our state forward and doing what we can to improve the lives of all people and for future generations. While COVID has fundamentally changed how we campaign, it has also brought to light the vital importance of electing caring and effective leaders who are tenaciously committed to lifting up the people of our state, moving our state forward, and planting seeds for tomorrow. This pandemic and the current societal unrest has demonstrated now more than ever the importance of providing all Wisconsinites with the necessary relief during times of struggle. We need strong progressive policies that work to ensure the health and well-being of everyone. And fundamental to our well-being during these challenging days are policies that I have always championed proudly. We need leaders in the legislature who will work proactively, as well as answer hard questions and make tough decisions, and who will support our state and ensure that everyone has the ability to be safe, healthy, and successful. This is an unexpected time, and right now, too many people in Wisconsin are struggling. And I know that as a state, we can do better. My work ethic, my experience, and my passion distinguish me as a leader for everyone. And I'm a true progressive with a proven track record, and I stand by the work that I've already achieved in the Assembly. I'm honored to be endorsed by countless labor unions, community organizations, Congressman Pocan, current and former mayors, legislators from across the state, local elected officials, and more. I would be honored to have your support in your vote on August 11th. I know we're stronger together. And please remember to request your ballot at wi.gov.
Thank you very much for that, Melissa. We'll move on to Andrew.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone who brought me out here. I can't name all of, I know the Eastside Progressives and all of the co-hosts. I'd like to thank you for spending Sunday with me in my man cave. This is wonderful. I don't really have that much to say, but to just say that during my world travels, being homeless veteran, being a serving my country, is that I may not have these policy experiences because I have not been into an office, but to serve in this community, to serve on boards, especially the Monona Grove School Board, I have these kind of opportunities and interests that I believe that I can serve the state of Wisconsin well. I have a small campaign. My campaign is Team Mckinney, of me, my wife, my 10-year-old security son, and my 14-year-old daughter who does my web. This is a small campaign. This has been a fun ride. However, I have been a voice that has never been heard, and there are a lot of voices out there like me. They have contacted me. They are supporting me, and they hope that I can be the next difference maker here in this state. So when I reach out to everyone out there, everything I speak of is from the heart. I'm not a scripted person. I come from the heart. And these are the things that help me become who I am today. And I am going to do my best, if voted in, to do my best to serve this state as like I did for Monona Grove School District and for my country and for all of my friends and family that have supported me in this. Thank you so much.
I thank you very much. With that, we will move on to the candidates for Assembly. This is the seat that is currently held by Melissa Sargent, who is not running for re-election for Assembly. We'll start with Samba for his opening statement.
Well, thank you, Jacob. Thank you, East Side Progressive, and thank you to my colleagues who are contesting this election, and also to everybody who tuned into this important debate. Like Jacob said, my name is Samba Baldeh. You can probably tell from my accent that I am not from Wisconsin or even a neighboring Minnesota. I came to the US 20 years ago without an idea of what I would do, certainly not as a political candidate as I am today. I have worked in the private sector for over 20 years, majority of this time in IT, information technology. 6 years ago, I was elected to the Madison Common Council. I was elected to Vice President and then to President of the Madison Common Council. I am running for State Assembly to continue my work in the community service. I am a servant leader. I have been in this community for 20 years to make sure that the voices that are always not at the table are brought to the table. This is a unique time in history. We are witnessing the birth of Black Lives Matter movement, an economic depression that we've never seen in our lifetime, and a pandemic. I believe that I have the professional experience in the public and private sector. I have the political experience and I have the life experience to effectively represent our diverse district. Despite my accent, I believe I share the progressive nature and sense of purpose of most of Wisconsin as well as residents of this district. I look forward to working with all of you as we tackle these important issues and make the changes we need to make in the years to come. Some of you may be asking, what is going to be your greatest priority as a member of the legislative branch?
Time.
That is time, Samba. Thank you very much for that statement. I just want to read off, since there are 4 candidates for this, I'm going to read off the order so that you know, and then I'll go from there. We're going to go to Walter, and then to Lindsay, and then to Jason. So Walter, you are next.
Thank you, and thank you to the Eastside Progressives for sponsoring this forum. My name is Walter Stewart, and I'm here today, of course, to ask for your vote. My wife, Pam, and I have lived in the area of Assembly District 48 for the last 30 years. I have a bachelor's degree in government from Beloit College and a law degree from the University of Wisconsin School of Law. I'm the only candidate for Assembly District 48 who has actually worked in the legislature. I worked for a while in the office of the Speaker and also for a committee that oversees the actions of state agencies. Today, I own a small business, a law firm in downtown Madison. Our lawyers assist, advise, and advocate for individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofits. We are in the local courts, we're in the Court of Appeals, we've been to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. I also believe that lawyers should volunteer to their services to improve the community. To that respect, I was on the local Parks and Recreation Committee for 24 years. I served on the board of directors of Housing Initiatives, which provides housing for people who are poor, homeless, and mentally ill. I served on the board of the Northside Planning Council that promotes job development and workforce training. I helped to modernize the Northeast Senior Coalition. Now we know that organization is Newbridge. It provides programs and services for older people so that they can stay in the community safe and connected. The Assembly District 48 needs a strong progressive voice in the Assembly on matters of education, employment, health, and safety. I feel very strongly that the burdens of COVID-19 and the legislation that will surely follow should not fall on the shoulders of those persons least able to carry that burden. We need assistance and advice from experienced problem solvers. That's why I'm running for Assembly District 48, and I would be honored to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Walter. We'll move to Lindsay.
Thank you, Jacob, and thank you so much, Eastside Progressives, for organizing this. My name is Lindsay Lemmer, and I am running for Assembly to stand up for our shared values and to get things done for the people of my district and the people of Wisconsin. Growing up in Madison, I first experienced politics as a volunteer on political campaigns in high school. I currently represent part of the 48th Assembly District as an elected alder on Madison City Council. I also serve as the president of the Wisconsin chapter of the National Organization for Women, also known as NOW. I've served as the communications chair for the Dane County Voter ID Coalition, which is led by the NAACP and the League of Women Voters, where I fought to protect and expand voting rights. All of my work has been about making change happen and finding solutions to really tough problems. I am a leader who gets things done. On the City Council, I've sponsored ordinances and worked on issues ranging from increasing affordable housing, to protecting clean water, to reducing plastic waste, to preparing for the impacts of climate change, to increasing access to voting. As an advocate, I led efforts on state-level issues related to equal rights and equal access. It is that combination of skill and experience as an alder and as an advocate that sets me apart from my opponents. It's why I've earned the support of more current and former elected officials than any other candidate in this race. In the State Assembly, I will be a leader who will prioritize funding for education at all levels, fighting to protect the right to vote, standing up for fair maps and ending gerrymandering, protecting reproductive rights, investing in strategies to end disparities and systemic injustices, strengthening our environmental laws, and working tirelessly on initiatives to rebuild our economy in the wake of COVID-19. I look forward to sharing more and to answering your questions.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Next up is Jason.
Thank you, Jacob, and thank you, Eastside Progressives, and of course, all of you that are joining in from home today. And my co-panelists in the discussion this afternoon. I'm looking forward to it. And we're facing some serious challenges. The state has seen a 10% loss of jobs. That's twice as many than during the Great Recession. 300,000 people are unemployed. If you think about that number, the city of Madison, it's greater than our population. We're still in the midst of a pandemic, and our state is facing a $2 billion shortfall. And the future of how we deliver education is unknown. Our systems are broken. Our institutions are stretched and under-resourced, and our current elected officials have overseen it all. When your car breaks, you call a mechanic, not your IT guy, not your lawyer, and not your city alder. When your economy breaks, you need someone that has built and rebuilt economies, who has not only created jobs, but helped lay the foundation for better jobs. When your economy breaks, you call an economic developer. For the past decade, I've worked in community and economic development across the country and here in Wisconsin, creating 3,000 new jobs and bringing $10 billion in new investment. I've worked across the state in building statewide workforce development programs, helping communities attract new workers, and saving whole companies. I've worked with FEMA to create a multi-state response plan to coronavirus, helping reinforce our supply chains for essential goods, and prioritizing health and safety of our team members. And I've worked to secure hazard pay for frontline employees. I've worked in red communities and blue communities to expand economic opportunity, and with state leaders on down to community leaders to redefine pathways for success. As your representative, I won't settle for anything less than results. I am fully transparent in what I want to achieve and the path that I'll use to get there. I don't rely on empty buzzwords or limit what is possible because I won't be in the majority come January. I will find solutions for folks in the 48th. Plans are fine, but a proven track record is better, and we deserve better.
Jason, that is time. Thank you. All right. I am going to pass it off to Samantha for the first question. Samantha, go ahead.
All right, so for this question, we'll begin with Jason, then Samba, then Walter, then Lindsay for the order for response. The question is, if a second outbreak of COVID-19 occurs in the fall, small businesses will be impacted. What can state government do to help these businesses? Jason? Jason, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, there you go.
Success, all right, thank you, Samantha. It wouldn't be a video call without a little technical difficulties, right? This is an incredibly important question. When we start thinking about the possibility of a second outbreak, we have to start thinking holistically about a comprehensive response and recovery plan. That includes reinforcing our healthcare supply chains, making sure that we can meet the challenge, making sure that our frontline healthcare workers are taken care of, and that we're thinking ahead to the future of that pipeline, making sure that we're training enough nurses and attracting those employees to the state of Wisconsin. And then we need to start thinking about our economy overall. How are we going to bend the curve of the recovery for our economy? And we have to think about strengthening our workforce and expanding student opportunities and investing in stronger workforce development strategies and creating different pathways for success. When we look at small businesses, there are over 31,000 applications sitting with WDC right now as they work their way through applications for support and thinking about how we protect employees. I mentioned hazard pay for frontline employees. I'm working in the state of Pennsylvania right now to secure over $250,000 for frontline employees. It's a state-funded grant program. We can do something similar here in the state of Wisconsin. And then we have to start thinking about opportunities beyond that, planning for the future of preparation, working with management, emergency management planners in counties across the state of Wisconsin so that our small businesses have an operational plan should an outbreak happen again. What will they do? Working to make sure that those plans are in place now so that when and if something does happen, that we can respond accordingly.
Thank you, Jason. Samba, same question.
I think that is a very, very important question. So I have lived in the corporate world for 20 years. So I do understand business. I have also owned small businesses, so I know what it means to own a small business. So we are talking about the second wave. We are still in the first wave. And so how really do we support our communities, our core communities, but also our business community? Just last week, the City Council of Madison voted on what we call the Downtown Recovery Equity. I am the only candidate who voted for that. So I know how business works. So I will continue to work with my colleagues and talk to them about what is important and how we need to support these businesses. Like Jason said, he's not interested in buzzword. I also do not think supporting our businesses is a distraction. We are in this together. Whether it is a white business or a black business, it is important that we are a community. I will advocate for funding to support our small businesses. I will advocate for funding to support our businesses of color. I am the lead advocate of a commercial ownership assistance And the outcome of this is mainly my interaction with small business owners. I am a grassroots candidate, somebody who is out there working with small businesses and communities. So I know what it takes to fix the economy, and I'm the only candidate here who has so far proven that.
And that is time. Thank you. All right. Next to answer the same question is Walter.
Thank you. The first thing I think we need to look at is the power of the governor and local officials to act in the time of crisis, such as a pandemic. Governments for hundreds of years have looked to their leaders, their governors and their local leaders, to take those steps necessary to protect public health and safety. The legislature last session, in the lame duck session, clipped the governor's wings, and now we have a governor who feels that he can't act fully in order to protect the public. We need to undo that legislation so that governor and local county executives have the power that they need to preserve public health. We should take another look at healthcare expenses. We will talk a lot about the failure to take the federal healthcare dollars by not expanding Medicaid. We've shown some of the real gaps in our system. That's one thing that could definitely be done. We need to protect the essential workers, not just the nurses, but the people who have to work because they don't have benefits, such as unemployment compensation. They need to have unemployment compensation, and if they get sick, they need to have workers' compensation. We need to address evictions and foreclosures. We did that this last time by having the courts slow down the evictions and foreclosures. We need to work with landlords and lenders. We can stretch out property tax payments. We can provide loans to keep businesses open and to keep their employees available so that when the economy comes back, the employees are there to work and restore the economy.
Thank you. Lindsay, same question to you.
Thank you. Well, people are suffering horrifically during this time of COVID-19. People are losing their jobs. People are not sure how they're going to stay in their homes. As far as business recovery, I am working on a small business recovery package that is going to be introduced at the August 4th council meeting that will address some items that weren't included in the package that we voted on last week, and I feel is a substantial improvement. As far as what we can do at the state level, we need to expand healthcare access. We need to accept federal dollars from Medicaid. We need the legislature to come back into session and deal with the economic and public health fallout of this disease. We need smart solutions like the Healthcare Heroes Act that was introduced to support frontline workers. One thing that is absolutely critical to any recovery is making sure that we are supporting childcare, and we have a crisis of lack of childcare access right now during this time of COVID-19. It was a problem before. It has become a crisis with 40% of childcare facilities closing during this. So I think the state has a serious role to play in increasing childcare access and making sure that those facilities have the support that they need. The state also needs to support shortages of PPE, work to address the digital divide, and we need to have a safety net because we cannot allow people to become homeless as a result of this pandemic. In the state assembly, I will advocate for aid and support that prioritizes those most impacted by COVID, that prioritizes our frontline and essential workers, and we need to look to science and best practices guiding how to respond to this.
Thank you, that's time. Thank you to all of our candidates, and Fareed has the next question.
The order for answering this next question will be Samba, and then Walter, Lindsay, and Jason. As a future legislator, you may see protests at the Capitol. Do you support curfews and the use of the National Guard? Samba.
Thank you. I think that's a very important question. When this particular question in an item came to the City Council, I was the only one person who voted against giving the mayor the extra power to stop people from demonstrating. So I do believe this is a human right. We can't destroy people's property. We cannot do that no matter how we are angry with the system, we must do it peacefully. So I am totally, completely for people to express their freedom. And I voted to say the mayor should not have the powers to stop people from demonstrating. But I am totally, completely against people destroying other people's property. And I am the only candidate who voted to make sure that people have their freedom to express. I came from a third world country where even drinking clean water was not the norm. I immigrated to the United States partly because of my hunger for freedom, but also for education. So I know what it means for people to be free. Knowing that no property should be destroyed is the reason also why I voted to make sure that downtown is revitalized. And I'm the only candidate also here who supported that.
Thank you. And next is Walter.
Thank you. What is a protester? That question was asked to Judge John Albert during the Act 10 demonstrations. And Judge Albert made it very clear that his definition of a protester was a person engaged in a constitutionally protected activity. And that sent a message to the state that those people who were marching at the Capitol had a clear and fundamental right to do so, and that he was there to be sure that that right was protected. I question the idea of a curfew. We see what's going on in Portland, Oregon. It would not surprise me at all if the people in Madison looked at a curfew and said, well, we're just not going to obey it for the sake of not obeying it. So I think that a curfew might be a somewhat empty promise. That being said, protesting does not include the destruction of public property. Protesting does not include assaults on individual bystanders. We do need to protect property, but I'm not convinced that the National Guard is going to be necessary for something like that. So I worked at the Capitol for several years. I was very used to demonstrations that we would go out for lunch and it would be the demonstration of the day. That's the way the Capitol works.
Thank you very much, Walter. Lindsay, you're next.
Thank you. People are protesting about fundamental issues of systemic injustice. And this is a time when we need to take action to reform systems and invest in solutions that end disparities. I don't believe a curfew, I don't believe use of the National Guard is the appropriate response to the protesting. I think the murders of George Floyd, of Breonna Taylor, and countless others have made it impossible for those who would deny or minimize the need for significant reforms. And I, as an elected official, am not going to let this moment pass. I am the only person in this race to support the Civilian Oversight Board to increase transparency and accountability for Madison policing. I also supported accepting the recommendations of the MPD Ad Hoc Committee so that we have a way to move forward, and because it is so important to take action now. Of course, we need to support peaceful protests, and of course we cannot condone violent acts, and we need to continue to not allow those violent acts to be a distraction. We need to focus on the reasons why people are protesting, and that is because we have a system that has failed them for far too long, and we need to take action to address that now.
Thank you, Lindsay. And then finally, Jason.
Thank you, Fareed. I think this is a bigger question than just the use of National Guard against protesters at the Capitol building. I think the larger question here is our public safety infrastructure and the need to realign funding and allocation to focus on what's the source of those challenges and issues are. Looking at community social services and community mental health challenges, refocusing dollars to identify the systemic failures and address those systemic failures that our system currently right now isn't addressing. And beyond that, we need to provide our communities with the type of tools they can use to do systemic reform on public safety infrastructure. That means giving more local control to city councils to look at their public safety commissions like the Fire and Police Commission, making sure that they're holding accountable the standards of policing in their community that make sense for them. And then we need to look at the way that the state as a whole investigates and looks at these types of challenges and aggressions. Well, I don't condone violence and the destruction of property, but at the same time, I recognize the frustration that these folks are feeling and not being heard. And so the point here we need to drive home is looking at how we can ensure that the investigations that do take place as a result of some of these challenges and frustration are met with trust and honesty. And that means setting up some sort of inspector general within our attorney general's office. Ahmed Arbery is a great example of conflict of interest that can arise.
Thank you for all your responses. Samantha.
All right, the order for answering this question will be Walter, Lindsay, Jason, and then Samba. If you are elected in the primary and then in the general election, chances are that as a Democrat, you will be in the minority. Therefore, many of the things you hope to accomplish will be difficult. How will you deal with that problem? Walter?
Yes, first we have to understand what is the role of a legislator. The legislator represents the people in that district. These people are going to have questions and concerns about how government operates and how they can participate in government. One of the most important jobs of a legislator is constituent service, working with those constituents so that they understand the legislative process, they understand what the state intends to achieve, and how they can tie into the process. Secondly, serving in the minority has its peculiar challenges. If you want to be effective, you have to work within the legislative committees so that the bill comes out of the committee as best as you can. Now, this means that you can't let the excellent become the enemy of the very good. You have to do the best that you can in the committee, recognizing that by the time that bill gets to the floor, you're not going to have any effect on whether it passes or fails. You're going to be in the minority. In some cases, you may be able to build a majority by peeling off some Republicans for your cause, but that doesn't happen very often. So the third thing that a legislator can do is call attention to the specific needs of their particular community. In the Assembly District 48, we have the PFAS situation. We have a number of issues that we need to address that are highly specific to AD 48, and that should be the legislator's job.
Thank you, Walter. Lindsay?
Thank you. I currently represent a diverse district on City Council, and I work with stakeholders of very different perspectives. So I have worked to build consensus and have had success in that. For example, getting support for the 1218 and AB interchange improvements, which required working with people of very different perspectives, but I was able to get that done. I think on the legislature, we need to look for opportunities for common ground, and I will work with everyone to be able to get that done. I think we need to look for opportunities, for example, the policing packages that were introduced by Governor Evers and Lieutenant Governor Barnes included a number of measures that were either not opposed or were supported by the Wisconsin Professional Police Association. I think that would be an opportunity for common ground. So I'm going to look for options like that, where we can find something to get the Republicans to come to the table. When that doesn't work, I am going to stand up for our shared values, and I am going to fight for the priorities of the people of this district.
Thank you, Lindsay. Jason, you're next.
Samantha, I have a proven track record of working with folks across the aisle in red states. I worked in Iowa and Missouri on workforce development programs and expanding economic opportunity. I've worked here in Wisconsin under a Republican-led assembly on creating a statewide workforce development program focused on K-12 students in STEM education. So I have a track record of working within this framework already. I think beyond that, we need to focus on things that create economic progress. Our state is facing significant challenges with COVID-19. And as a result of that, focusing on our recovery is all the more important now than ever. When you look at the average age of a Wisconsin worker, it's over 40. We need to plan for the future of how our economy is changing, and we can focus on those pockets there, working with groups like the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, and working within those coalitions of generally more conservative trade organizations that can get the constituents that they serve on our side to focus on that. One great example of this is looking at our environment. We have to think long-term about how we diversify our economies. There's over 800,000 employees that work in carbon-intensive industries. We need to work on diversifying that, and we can't do that alone. And that means creating more jobs and different types of jobs. And of course, Republican members of the Assembly and Senate will be on board with getting more jobs and better jobs for members and constituents in their districts. We can look at, again, in renewable energy. We can work with the Public Service Commission to incentivize public utilities to invest in green and renewable energy by providing them better rate tiers to be more economically competitive. Just two ways that we can work with members on the other side. Thank you.
And that's time. Thank you. And Samba, you are up.
Well, thank you. I think that is a very important question. So before I get to the question, I just want to make something very clear. On the civilian oversight, I was the original sponsors of the civilian oversight within the city council. And so I do know the importance of it, and that's why I was the original sponsor. So just to make things clear. On the issue of being the minority if elected to the state assembly, I have lived all my American life as a minority. But I am here today running for state assembly. That speaks to my ability to work with others. That speaks to my ability to look at the issue and not the person that I'm dealing with. That speaks to my ability to understand the issue and how well I connect with the community. I am a grassroots person who understands what is happening, and I have an open mind to work with anybody who is interested in moving this state forward. I have the ability to work with others. I have a proven record at the council. As the council president, I make sure that the city child care budget was increased by $2 million. So I will cross aisle and reach out to others and not be judgmental about anything, but the issues that are before us. And I think the problem with politics is that people are so judgmental and they are more interested in fighting as opposed to coming to the table and look at the issue for which we were all elected, whether you are Republican or Democrat. And I think education is so important. I'll find people within the Republican side who will work with me on
that. That is kind. All right, thank you, everyone. Fareed has the next question.
And this is the final question of our forum. Thank you to all. Your order will be Lindsay, followed by Jason, Samba, and then Walter. What do you see as your legislative priorities for Wisconsin, and how do you envision their impact a decade from now? Lindsay.
My priorities include, first of all, we need to address our substantial systemic inequities and racial disparities, and we need to make that priority one. We need to increase access to education at all levels, from pre-K to our K through 12 system, to our Wisconsin Technical College system, to our UW system, and we need to make sure that people have access to good career development opportunities such as apprenticeships. We need to protect the right to vote because it has been under attack. And part of that is also fighting against gerrymandering and establishing a nonpartisan commission to draw our electoral maps. We need to strengthen our environmental laws to protect our clean air and clean water. And we need to rebuild our economy inclusively and equitably in the wake of COVID-19. I'm going to get these done the way that I have gotten things done in the city council, and the way that I have gotten things done as a president of NOW, by working with folks of different perspectives, by standing up for the values of the people I represent, and by turning those values into action and getting things done.
Thank you, Lindsay. Up next is Jason.
Fareed, I want to focus on issues that I know that I can get accomplished by working with the other side. And that starts with a comprehensive response plan to coronavirus, which certainly includes things like reinforcing our supply chains for PPE and ideally expanding Medicaid as an opportunity to better protect residents of Wisconsin. But it also means focusing on our economic recovery. And we start by looking at creating new jobs. Creating and expanding economic opportunity here on the east and north side of Madison is my #1 priority, and it will help address systemic issues and failures that we're seeing transcend national discussion right now. And we can do that by looking at the makeup of our economy. We have a $14 billion import of goods that come into our district on an annual basis. $10 billion of that is from outside of our area. That means we have $10 billion worth of opportunity. $12 billion of our $16 billion economy goes outside of our district. So we have $22 billion to do this, to create new jobs and build that. We can't talk about that without focusing on workforce opportunities and strengthening and expanding student opportunities. I've worked in communities where we helped create non-traditional pathways to creating and generating generational wealth. And they did that by allowing students to work with private sector partners on industry badging and credentialing. And they earned $20, $25 an hour jobs when they graduated. And then finally, we need to focus on expanding access to affordable healthcare by focusing on population health drivers that can lower the cost of access to care for folks and focus on the complexity of our healthcare system.
Thank you, Jason. All right, Samba, you're next.
Thank you, Jacob. So obviously my greatest priority, if I'm given the opportunity to serve in the legislature, is protect our education. We cannot leave our students behind, especially those students who are already behind. Children without education advantages and children in need of special education. I will work very hard to direct funding for kids who need it the most. These kids are our future. The teachers are our future. We must protect education. The second priority, as we know from COVID, is hunger. It used to be that our kids will go to school, particularly people who are poor, from poor families, will eat breakfast and lunch at school. When someone is hungry, nothing else matters. Community fundraising and participation is important, but the only thing, only the state has the resources and the network available to meet most of these important needs. So as a representative at the state, I will advocate to make sure that our people do not go to bed hungry. Obviously, COVID is here. So healthcare will be, I'll advocate for expansion of Medicare, capture hundreds of millions of federal dollars, and make sure that Wisconsinites are insured and thousands of folks get insurance. That way, we also create jobs within the state. Criminal justice reform is obviously important. It is time to reform our criminal justice system, and that would be a priority of my legislative agenda.
Thank you, Samba, and thank you to all for your responses. Jacob.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to invite each candidate to.
I think Walt needs to answer the question, Jacob.
Oh, I forgot about.
I'm very, very sorry.
Walter, my apologies. Very sorry, Walter. Please go ahead.
Thank you. As far as Assembly District 48 goes, I do think that we need to improve civilian oversight of the police. So I would count that as a significant a policy goal. One thing we learned from these forums is that the list of important policies and priorities just gets longer and longer. But I do think we need to revisit that power of the governor and local leaders to get us safely back to work. We need adequate leadership. We're not getting it from the president. We need state and local leadership to tell us what is the best way to get back to work safely. We need affordable and available health care. We've talked several times about federal health care dollars. We're also talking about protecting the system with nurses and having adequate PPE. In the environment for Assembly District 48, we cannot ignore the PFAS issue. We have Lake Mendota, Lake Monona, Starkweather Creek. People fish in this area. A lot of times they need the fish to supplement their nutrition. And so we need to make sure that we clean up these bodies of water. Before I came to this forum, I went back into my files and I reviewed the Race to Equity, a report put out by the Council of Children and Families. It focused on the racial disparities in Dane County, but it also, and it made a list of things that needed to be done, but there are a number of steps that the states can take to address these issues.
Thank you, Walter, and once again, my apologies for missing you there. We're glad you got to speak. Jacob.
All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to invite each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement. We're gonna go in reverse order from the opening statements. So first I'll turn it over to Jason.
Jacob, thank you. And thank you for reading Samantha for the excellent questions and discussion today. And I appreciate my co-panelists as well in their discussion. I'm running because I believe that we all deserve strong communities. And I think that begins with creating and building generational wealth by expanding economic opportunity. I've worked to build strong communities here in Madison, having spent 5 years on the New Harvest Foundation Board, working to create access to resources for youth within the LGBTQ+ community, and later helping trans community members gain access to mission-achieving resources. And where I currently serve on the Rodney Shieldhouse Foundation, where I work with folks living with HIV/AIDS get access to affordable housing. I know what it means to be poor in Wisconsin. I know what it means to watch your family suffer. I grew up in small town Wisconsin and watched my mother scrape together enough to keep us warm and fed. But I also watched as my family fell victim to many of the challenges that comes with poverty, like drug addiction, and then watched as they went in and out of the criminal justice system. I watched as people from my community tore my father down publicly for one mistake. And one of the most challenging things I've ever had to do in my life was see him dressed in that red jumpsuit and read the words that I wrote, asking my community to look at him, not as a criminal, but as a human. I worked hard to be the first member of my family to go to college, earning 2 degrees from UW-Madison and a master's in public policy and administration from Northwestern University. At 16, I came out to friends and family and took on my rural community to fight to make sure students like me had a safe space in their school. Adversity is a word that I am all too familiar with, which is why I will use my lived experience to elevate the voices who have been left out. I've seen poverty, and I've seen the ravages of addiction, and I've seen the massive failure of our criminal justice system up close. And I can say with experience, it doesn't work. We deserve better. We deserve communities that help us succeed. And I need your help to get a seat at the table. I don't know about you, but I am tired of being on the menu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. Next up is Lindsay.
Thank you. Thank you to the Eastside Progressives for hosting this, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. This is an unprecedented time. The challenges that we face make me more committed than ever to serving in the state assembly. We need to invest in effective solutions to end disparities. It is time for action, not talk. We need to rebuild our economy in the wake of COVID-19. It is time for equity and inclusion and an economy that works for everyone. We need to invest in education at all levels, from pre-kindergarten to apprenticeships. It is time for increased access to education. We need to protect our right to vote and draw fair maps to end gerrymandering. It is time for people to choose their representatives instead of politicians choosing their voters. We must protect our clean air and our clean water. It is past time to take bold steps to confront climate change. I have a track record of proven results. I will stand up for our shared values, and I will make change happen by turning those values into action every day. As an alder, I supported the Market Ready program, a business training and microgrant program for underrepresented communities. I sponsored responsible updates to our stormwater management ordinances and worked on ordinances to reduce harmful plastic waste and to increase access to voting. As the president of the Wisconsin chapter of NOW, I led the charge against anti-choice and discriminatory legislation at the state level. As the communications chair for the Dane County Voter ID Coalition, I work to support voting rights. Together, we can move our city, our state, and our nation forward toward a more just, inclusive, and fair society. You have my pledge that I will work my hardest every day to do my part as your next representative. I ask for your vote in the 48th district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Next up is Walter for a closing statement.
Thank you, Eastside Progressives, for giving us your Sunday afternoon so that you can hear more from the candidates of Assembly District 48. Please let me share my vision for this election and beyond. I have two major themes. The first major theme is equality for all. Black Lives Matter has done a good job of focusing equality in the area of racial disparities, policing, use of force, banning chokeholds. We also have to remember equality for women in women's health and fair pay, equality for the LGBTQ+ community. We have a lot of momentum going in favor of equality. We need to keep that momentum going past the election and well past the next 2 years. The second major theme is COVID-19 equity, as COVID-19 changes how we vote, work, learn, tax, and budget. I think Representative Sheila Stubbs put it very well, and I'm going to quote her. She said, given the climate that we're in right now with Black Lives Matter, you cannot continue to operate with budgets the way we have been or systems the way they are. People are clear about change. So how do we revive our markets and return to school and resume our lives? Start with pressing for particular legislation. Now, twice this afternoon, I have mentioned the need to restore power to the governor. It's not that I like strongman politics or strongman government. Somebody needs to be in charge. One of the reasons why we're in the situation that we're in right now is because we don't have the firm leadership necessary to navigate through this health crisis. We need to put the emphasis on essential workers and those who must work because they lack benefits, such as unemployment compensation. There will be no economy without those protections. But again, as I've said before, the burden of change must not fall upon the shoulders of those persons who are least able to carry the burden. I am fit for this fight. For 37 years, I've assisted families and small businesses. This is the type of constituent service that you want. I have extensive experience in working with resolving differences. We discuss, negotiate, advocate, and put together a solution that allows people to work forward.
All right, Walter.
Matters. I want to be your legislator.
Thank you. That is time. Thank you. Next up is Samba for a closing statement.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Eastside Progressive, and thank you to everybody who tuned into this discussion, and also to my fellow contestant for Assembly District 48. This is the most important time for citizen involvement. It is also the most difficult time. I am sure watching us on Zoom is not very exciting, but this is the only way available to us at this time. So thank you to all of you for tuning in, and my fellow contestant for being at the table for this discussion. Well 15 is in my district, it's in District 17 in my city district. I advocated to make sure that the testing of the wells around this area, PFAS, is much more frequent than it was. So I know the environmental problems. Part of my district is also impacted by the presence of F-35s. I am the only candidate who sent a special press release to say we shouldn't sit them here in Madison, Wisconsin. I am a candidate for state assembly to address issues that are of great importance to me and to many of you. In this challenging fiscal environment for the state government, I think it is important that we protect education from budget cuts. I mentioned this at the beginning. I am the only candidate who has been endorsed by the Wisconsin Education Association Council. That speaks to my understanding of the issue, but my capability to work with these people. So budget cuts on education is not acceptable. Criminal justice reform, I'm the only candidate here who is endorsed by the top law enforcement officers of this county and the state. That speaks to my ability to cross aisle and discuss the issues that are important to you, not politicians. That is what I will do if given the opportunity. So I will be honored.
Okay, that is time. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for coming. I will pass it off to Samantha for some closing remarks and other opportunities for engagement.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate our candidates taking the time to speak with us today, and I appreciate all who attended. In closing, I'd like to note that as a volunteer organization, we are always looking for more people to get involved. There's a lot of work to do, so check us out on eastsideprogressives.org, and we will put that address in the chat box as well. I'd also like to invite Eden Romer, our Democratic Party field organizer, to discuss a couple of specific upcoming opportunities. Eden?
Thank you, Samantha. Hi, guys. Like Samantha said, my name is Aiden. I'm the West Dems organizer for the Eastside Progressives.
And you're the real Aiden.
I'm the real Aiden.
The other Aidens in this meeting.
Which is weird, but I'm the real Aiden. And I want to quickly say happy 100 days until the general election. If you didn't know, we're 100 days out. And I just want to quickly introduce myself as a 2018 East High School grad. And I want to share my favorite anecdote about the Eastside Progressives. The first time I ever knocked doors out of a staging location was in 2016 for the general election, and that was actually out of the Eastside Progressive staging location. So I'm just so lucky that I get to work with the same team that inspired me to try field for the first time and to love it. So huge thank you to the Eastside Progressives for everything that you have always done for our community and continue to do for our community. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. And I just wanted to let you know that we're on day 2 of a statewide weekend of action right now. So it's a little late to join us this weekend, but we're going to have another one the weekend of August 8th and 9th, and then again the 29th and 30th if the first one doesn't work for you. We really need your help if we're going to reach as many people as we need to in the next 3 months. So if you're interested in chatting more about our plan to win, I would be happy to meet with you one-on-one, unfortunately not in person right now, but on Zoom. And I'm going to go ahead and put my contact info in the chat. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or you want to get involved. I'm going to pass it back to Jacob to wrap it up.
Thank you, and that is a wrap. Just a quick reminder on the 2 election dates. The primary election for the Democratic seats that we discussed today is August 11th. That's the date for in-person voting. I know many people are using absentee ballots and might already have those, but August 11th is the official election day. And then as Aiden mentioned, the general election is 100 days from today. So let's get involved and stay engaged. And I want to thank you for giving us this time on your Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob.
I got to go hang up the Christmas stuff now. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Take care, all.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.